are live. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. It's Kate Richburg, and I'm live from beadshop.com. It's great to have all of you here today for this fun project. I can see I'm just making sure that I am up and running and that you are up and running, and we are all set to go. Okay, yes, I see all of you jumping on. Well, good morning. We're going to have a fun project today with this 3D tapestry. Some of you may be wondering why I'm going solo today without any sidekick. And unfortunately, we're missing Emily today. She had a few things to take care of because of our crazy fires here in Northern California. So Emily is fine, but they are on fire watch up in Lake County. So she feels much more comfortable being off camera today and attending to that. So we miss you, Emily, and hope everything is going okay with you at home. So let's jump in. I'm Kate. I'm in front of the camera. We've got Brandwin behind the camera. I know that Gita will be jumping on shortly and linking and posting from beadshop.com. And we also will have Janice jumping on and doing some linking and stuff as well. So that's what we've got going on. Today we're going to be doing a really fun project that it's a 3D tapestry that I'll talk about shortly. But we also have a brand new wonderful product that we just got in. It's the dragon scales. You'll see those in our just in section. And some of you who have consulted your newsletters already are already jumping in on those. And I have them here, and when we turn the camera around, I'm going to show you a little bit about the dragon scale and a little bit about how it's used. We have also kind of done a mashup for this project. As you know, we love to do our wrap bracelets here at Bead Shop. Well, this one is kind of a mashup. This is a kind of a mashup between looming and the wrap bracelet. And one of the things that inspired this design is our 3D tapestry project. And let me grab, maybe it might be easier to see this one, Brandwin, I don't know. They come in a bunch of different colors. And this was our 3D tapestry. And that one utilized Super Duos, which was kind of another specialty check glass bead, right? And so having this specialty check glass bead in the dragon scale kind of echoes, you know, what we did with this one. But we thought it would be fun, instead of adding a clasp to it, to make it a loomed piece here. So if you haven't done our regular tapestry project, it's a great one to visit or revisit if you haven't done it before. And let me get my trusty, let's see, I've got my knitting needle here that I make my jump rings out of a lot of times, so I'm going to use that as my pointer. But you can see, yep, is that okay? Yeah. You got that there, Brad? You can see the Super Duos are in the pattern here, and then we've done the 4mm here, and then we've done some 4mm rounds there. Well, you can see how it echoes on our 3D tapestry wrap. So instead of the Super Duos, we've got kind of this 3D effect from the dragon scales. We've got some 6/0, we've got the 4mm there, and of course we've got the 4mm fire polish there. So we've got a lot of I think it's a good refresh for the tapestry. And where is the silver one? It's right here in front of me, right in front of my eyes. Look up. Yes, there it is. So we have a couple of different colorways of these. We've got this silver one called Bella Silver, and then this kind of rose-colored one, the Bella Love. And so we'll look at those as well when we turn the camera around. We've got a bunch of, as I say, fun stuff to explore today, and then also on Free Tip Friday, also dropping today was our new monthly mix. And our new monthly mix has been designed by our very own Cara, and it's called Summer Sunset I believe is what it's called. And on Friday, on Free Tip Friday, Kara's going to be jumping on with me, and we're going to talk about some ideas to use that monthly mix. But I've got it right here, Summer Sunset for August 2018. And that's also in our Just In section. And it's a great one from Kara. It's a beautiful mix, definitely in Kara's colorways, in this kind of red and orange and turquoise and stuff. But more about that on Friday. I also want to let you guys know, like many people across the land, August is time for vacations. So we are taking a little vacation time here from Facebook Live in August. But don't you worry, we're going to be coming back in September right after Labor Day. But we need a little bit of a break to kind of regroup and plan our projects. We've got some great stuff coming on in the fall, but our August is so jam-packed with me going to Bead Fest, meeting up with Janice and Drea there. We've got all kinds of stuff that's happening here on site. So we also have prep for our bead retreat in September. So what you're going to see in August, the next 4 weeks, the weeks before Labor Day, the last 4 weeks of summer, you're going to see the best of Facebook Live. You're going to see, we're going to link a broadcast every Wednesday. We'll have a fun promotion, some fun things happening around it, but it won't be live. But you know what? You can log on at 10:30 anyway and rewatch that broadcast. So know that we're here working behind the scenes to make a lot of fun stuff coming up for the fall. So we're sorry that we won't be live for the next 4 weeks, but we'll be thinking of you, and you're always welcome to interact in the bead shop group, the bead table. You can always shoot us some emails, stuff like that. Also on Fridays, we've got a great lineup for Free Tip Friday that we're going to recycle as well, that kind of go hand in hand with that Wednesday broadcast. So stay tuned. They'll go out in your newsletters, we'll link them, and it'll be almost like we're together. So that'll be fun. We've got some fun stuff planned there. So it'll be a great time to catch up and have a little bit of a summer break, like some of you are having as well. We also have coming up, if you guys saw, I did a broadcast, was it really just yesterday, on Tuesday morning? It was live from my studio. You can see that linked over on my Kate Richburg Jewelry Educator page. It's also linked right here on beadshop.com, and Karen is uploading it later today along with this broadcast up to our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch that. If you didn't, I was playing a little bit with fire, a little preview for one of my Bead Fest classes. And Bead Fest is coming up the second week of August. It's just 2 weeks away. And we're going to be having a meetup that Saturday. And that Saturday date, I will tell you what that is. That Saturday date is the 18th at Bead Fest Philly. It'll be in my classroom. And we'll give you some links and some stuff about the times and the place and how to get there and all that stuff. So stay tuned to the Facebook page, also to our newsletters, and if you can join us for that meet and greet, we would love, love, love to see you. And last year's meet and greet was wonderful. We met so many of you that came to Bead Fest. You were wearing your beautiful pieces, all that great stuff. So it was really, really great to see you. So we'll be doing that again. We also have our Bead Shop Bead Retreat coming up in September. We're deep in the planning for that. It's chock full. It's great that everyone is coming from all over the country. We will be doing some lives from that, so never fear. If you can't join us live there, if you haven't signed up, we will be sharing some tips and techniques straight from that broadcast. So, or straight from that retreat. So we would love, love to see you. And those of you who are just jumping on and are missing Emily, Emily is actually off today. She has some personal stuff to attend to with the fires and stuff that are going on up here in Northern California. But she's fine. We miss her, and we wish everything well for her. Okay. So let's turn this camera around, Brand, because I want to share with you guys the dragon scales. These dragon scales have been a long time coming for sure. So let me move this camera and you guys can see what we've got going on here. Let me put on my glasses so I can see where to put the camera. Bear with me here. And let's add this camera. Sorry, I know it's a little shaky, and I'm super short, so I'm trying to see where this camera goes. And I think maybe, let me stand up here so I can see it. So bear with me here, you guys. This is in, and maybe it's locked in. Sorry, Brandon, I'm having trouble.
I just wanted to make sure this wasn't well. While you were doing that, I was
Yeah, make sure that's right.
Here, you want me to help?
Maybe. Why isn't this locking in?
Is it got that metal thing again?
I don't know.
I think it is.
See, oh, it's that. Oh, let's take that off. Sorry, you guys. Technical difficulties. There it goes. Thanks, Brandon. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of that. And we're all set. Sorry about that, but it's the beauty of live broadcasting. There we go. You can see my hands. You can mostly see my hands in front of the camera lens, but I think we're all set there.
Just in case you want to see what...
Yeah, okay, looks great. I'm going to actually move this out of the way and put this in the way so we can see what's going on here. So let's take a look at the dragon scale beads themselves.
Perfect.
And the dragon scales, Tammy Drennan says she's been waiting for these dragon scales. That's awesome. I have two, Tammy. I have two. It's super exciting that we're getting them, that we're finally getting them in and up and running. You know, this is a shaped bead, right? A Czech glass bead. And the bead factories in the Czech Republic have been making so many interesting shapes and interesting things, including, like I was showing earlier, these two-hold super duos that are in this tapestry bracelet. That's the super duo right there. But there's a lot of different and interesting shapes that are coming out of the Czech Republic. So we have jumped on the dragon scales bandwagon. And I think it was one of you who had posted, maybe in the bead shop bead group, the bead table, that they were using dragon scales. But the dragon scales kind of came up on our radar, and we were like, wait, what? Was it during Facebook Live?
It was Facebook Live, I remember.
Yeah, so they were really cool. So we're like, you know what? We're jumping on the bandwagon too. Let's do it. So we've ordered some in. This is just the first of, I think, more finishes that we're going to be getting in. We have a whole variety of these beads. They're coming in some coatings. So let me open this one up here, just a random one. This one is the metallic mix. You can see that there. And I'm going to open these up. And you can see it's exactly what it is. It's metallic mix. And there's the one side of the dragon scale is a little lighter, and one side is a little darker. So they're kind of an interesting... it's actually a mix of these two, kind of a lighter and a darker copper, which is really cool. Okay. So, and we are working with, as Janice talked about in the comments, we are working with a Czech manufacturer directly, which is kind of fun and exciting, kind of cool there. For these interesting colors, it's these guys in the bags. So, like for instance, this Crystal French Rose, it's a different coating that we've got here. And can you see how it's not as metallic as it was, as these guys were? Let me pull one of these out from the Czech. Look at that Crystal French Rose. Isn't that beautiful? Let me pull out kind of an interesting, I don't know, I want them all, right? Let me pull out this guy. This is right in my wheelhouse of colors. This is Jet Hematite. So let me pull this out and see. Look at these guys, that Jet Hematite. Isn't that beautiful? I think that's such a cool colorway. And so these are coated here as well. So the glass underneath is probably jet. It says jet hematite, so I would assume the glass is black or jet colored. They also come in, I know that you're already picking up what I'm putting down, but I want to open up a few more of these just so we can get a little more color here. I don't know. I haven't spent, I'll be honest, I have not spent probably enough time with these guys. Look at this one. Oh my goodness. The bead gods are smiling. This one is Silver Rainbow. Look, just will you look, can you look at this? See these? It's silver on the one side, and it's like that, what they're calling now backlit kind of, that kind of funky AB kind of coating. Can you see that on there? And it also looks, you guys, like it's a mix of two different beads. It's like, kind of like this guy, this finish, and maybe this finish. They look slightly different as a mix. What's it called? Yep, Silver Rainbow. So they're a little different from bead to bead, which I think makes them really glorious. Can you see that on my hand? There you go. Yep. So aren't those are really great. And someone was mentioning doing like a mermaid's tail or something like that with these. I'm going to show you when I'm actually looming the project, because I'm going to show you kind of the highlights. I'm also going to show you, I'll tell you a little bit about the history when we were kind of working this out. Emily's design was really genius, because I will tell you what, I was struggling with this project, struggling. But I think that the finished product came out great. And I'll share with you a few of my ideas that I was working with too, because these can just, whoops, of course I opened them.
Just a light.
Sure, yep, no worries. I'll share with you some of the things that I discovered when I was using them. Oh, great, thanks, Brandon. The last color I want to share with you, let me just show you this one. Because I feel like we don't have enough kind of yellow. This one's called Crystal, or this one's called Green Rainbow. I don't know. I feel like we don't have quite enough rainbow or yellow colors. Look at that. It's almost like a really light jonquil color. Can you guys see what that looks like? Isn't that good? I don't know. It just screams kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's because I love this color so much. My little gran had a mohair sweater that was kind of this yellowy color. So maybe that's why I'm drawn to it so much. I don't know, but isn't it pretty? It's really pretty. So we've got a bunch of different colors. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 colorways. 19 different colors. Or 18 colors, maybe I counted that one twice. We've got so many, and you can find them all in our Just In section, or they're also check glass beads, so you'll find them there too.
It is 19. I remember it was an odd
19,
number.
yeah. So they're really good.
One of the challenges of putting them up.
Yes, indeed. Well, look at this last one. I know you're like, Kate, get to the flippin' project. But I want to show you just one more because I love them. Look at this blue. Look at the blue. Crystals, Celestian blue. I mean, come on, people. And this one's a little matted, you can see. So if you were doing some kind of a design or something with these guys, you could see that you could mix the matte and the shiny, and that would be a really great contrast. There's so many ways that you could work with this. And look, isn't this funny? When I opened just this brand new tube up, and look what was in there, a 3mm jet hematite fire polish. This must have been left in the plating drum. This bead must have been left in the plating drum and got mixed in with these. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? So I'm just going to throw it back in there. There we go. It's bonus. Gift with purchase, right? With that one. All right, so that's the dragon scales right there, okay? So that's everything. So let's take a look at the project. And I'll be honest, this, when we got the dragon scales in, we were super excited and we loved them and we started playing around with them. And I, you know, really latched on right away. And I said, I'm going to make a looming project and it's going to be amazing. And so I started to play around with it. And then I said, oh my God, I'm in the middle of this looming project. It's so not amazing. It's actually the worst thing I've ever made. So it's so bad that we actually cut it up. It was also that we were kind of playing around with the different ideas and stuff, and Emily came up with this really clever idea of making this into kind of a loom wrap mashup. So I'm gonna share with you how this went together. I really love them. I love them, love them. And let me see, let me move this around and move this here so you guys can really see what's going on. And so this is, let me wrap it around. It's a 2-wrap, a double wrap, okay? And it looks like this. And it's doubled around like so. And we chose the leafy button. I have the list right here. Hang on, the new leaf button. Yes, it's right here. And we chose it in this silver colorway for the Bella Silver, and then in the brass colorway for the Bella Love. And I just love the way, I just love the size of this button. I love the texture of the button. I think it goes really, really well. I really dig, when Emily chose this colorway, she said to me, I'm going to make this a little kind of, you know, I don't know, a little bit of a punk rock colorway. And you know how I have punk rock deep in my soul, so I really resonated with this. I love that these are the crystal Labrador, full Labrador dragon scales. I love how they look like spikes. I love everything about this piece. So the takeaways from today's project that I'm really going to share with you is we're going to talk about how we're using the design board as a loom, okay, the deep dish design board. We're also going to talk about how we deal with, see how this is leather on the outside? So it's like a wrap, right? It has the leather around the outside like a traditional wrap bracelet. It's loomed back and forth like a loomed piece, right? And then we're going to do the buttonhole here. I'm going to share that with you. Then we're going to kind of play around with how we match things up and how we size things. And then I'm going to show you how this button is then put on. Okay? So it's pretty, it'll be kind of a fun adventure. What I did when Emily was making this piece, she wrapped her design board long, like this, right? But since I'm doing kind of an abbreviated version, I've wrapped mine short like this. And if you've never used a design board as a loom, I want to talk about this for a moment. This is a great way. You've seen us do this with ladder bracelets and things, but with the tapestry, you can see when we did it, you can see it's not a super long piece, so you could warp your board with several different warps and do kind of like a color study, you know, a color variation on each different one. So it's a great way, like if you're traveling for the summer, traveling on vacation, you can get everything set up, put your beads in one of our little our little fun round containers that we have. It's called Little Storage, I think. And you're good to go. You're mobile and ready to go. So you can see I've wrapped this guy, going back to our Bella Love, and I'll go over the ingredients in just a second. But you can see however many rows I have here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So did I warp one too many times? I may have. I was going to be all prepared for you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did. I wrapped one too many. Ha ha ha. Well, that's easily fixed. I just come on the back and you can see how I cut this anyway. I'm going to cut this down because you need one less row. So I need 5 rows, or 5 strands of beads, or 5 strands of thread rather. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of those to make 4 channels, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So let me turn this around again, and I'm going to tie it in the back, and you can actually see how I do that. And yeah, Ellen, you were asking there in the comments, could I use a loom for this project? And the answer is, I'm sure you could. You know, I don't know why you couldn't. I think it would work just fine with a little bit of modification. So see what I'm doing here? It's hard to see because this thread is dark and the board is dark. So I'll put a piece of paper there so you could see it. So see how I've just tied an overhand knot kind of here, or a half hitch there. I'm going to put my finger right on there, and I'm just going to tie one more knot, that square knot. So I was going right over left, and now this goes left over right, and I'm going to tighten this down, tighten this down, tighten this down, tighten that way down. There we are. There we go. And I don't want this to be too super tight, but I want it to be tight enough so that things aren't moving around. Okay? And so you're going to wrap, and I know you're asking me, Kate, well, what thread are you using? Well, gang, we use 2 threads in this project. I am using the eggplant micro Ceylon for the warps, and I'm going to use Fireline for the weft. We are also putting in an extra weft along the outside using the 1.0 round leather. Okay? So, and Cindy, you were asking, can any cord be used? You know, sure, within reason, right? Let's take a look at this tapestry. It might be easier to see on this one. Take a look here. Okay, this is really similar. This has, I think, 0.5 millimeter cotton cord on the outside. Can you see that? Right? Here and here. Okay, that's a 0.5. All right. Instead, what we used for the outside, we used that 1 millimeter. So it's a little thicker. You could also use surfer cord, right? For sure, you could use surfer cord. You could also use, for the outside like this, you could use a regular Ceylon, right? You could, if you wanted, and I think, let me grab this thing over here. This is one of my, I think this is called Debut, this project. It was one of the very first projects I did on Facebook Live so long ago. But you can also see how I have heavier. This may be micro. It also may be regular. I'm not sure. I have to check the project notes. But as long as, the rule of thumb is, for these warps, as long as you like the look of it, because the thicker that the thread is, the more your warp is going to show. Okay? No big deal. I like having the warps kind of show with this because I feel like the thread kind of gives it an interesting look. Same thing with this tapestry. I mean, we're calling it tapestry, and tapestries are usually made of threads, so it's nice to have those in there. Okay? Now, for the weft, or the back and forth, and the way that you remember that the back and forth stitches are called weft is you're moving from right to left. Left rhymes with weft, and so that's how you remember. Right to left is weft. Okay? So that's what we've got there. Warps, up and down, weft, back and forth. Okay? So that's what we've got. Okay? And so let's start in by starting with the end of our project. We start this project on the buttonhole end. And let me see if I can show you here. Might be easiest to see if I turn it over on the back. See how this leather is a full kind of, you know, it's an unbroken line of leather. And on the other side, the button side, this is when the leather comes up, goes back through, and then gets woven back through the pieces. Can you see that there? So we're going to start by putting our cord right here on the pieces. So I'm going to actually kind of measure here and then measure it out for you. This is once, twice, plus a little more. Let me measure how long that is. This is, I'll tell you, long piece. This is, I would cut maybe a yard. It's 47 inches is what this comes to, about 46 and a half. Can you see that there? So about that, somewhere in that range, depending. Now remember, this is going to give me 2 wraps, so you could even cut about 50 inches. If you wanted it to be longer, obviously you'd cut more cord, okay? But this is the 1 millimeter leather. Now, I'm going to fold this in half so that I know where my center is. My center is here, and I'm just going to lay that center. It doesn't have to be exact center, but I'm just going to lay that kind of right. Can you see? Am I in frame, Bran? Am I okay? Okay. So I'm going to lay it right there, okay? Now you can see the beads that we've chosen for this project. I'll bring these in. We've got some different size 8s. We're using size 8s and we're also using some size 6s. But the size 8s that I'm using for the base of this, I am using the Duracoat galvanized eggplant here in ADOT. So I'm going to dump these out. And you can see if you go to our website, beadshop.com, as you know, you click on Facebook Live and you'll see links to both of the projects, and you will be able to see all of the lists. There's also a recipe there, so if you decide, hey, I want to do my own thing, then by all means, you can do your own thing. I'm using Fireline for the laddering on this. Now, Fireline for this loomed piece, I like using the Fireline a lot. I'm going to slightly wax it just a little bit. You can also, if you want, you could use KO, I think, but I think that so many mixed beads in here, like the metals and like the dragon scales and stuff, I think it's a great idea to utilize this Fireline. We're using the smoke color for both of them, and they just fade kind of right into the background. So it's, you know, it's just fine. That works just fine. So I'm going to wax this a little bit because I like the feeling of wax on my threads. It also helps to tame it just a little. And I'm going to come in with my Fireline. I'm using a size 10 beading needle, and I'm going to come in and needle my thread, which means placing the eye of the needle right on the end of that thread. I said, let me say that again with conviction, the courage of my convictions, I'm the boss of that needle, and I am needling that thread. There it goes. All right. And this Fireline is so kind of stiff-ish, so it'll give the wrap some body, which I like. It has a little bit of body to it, so it's not too floppy flop. All right, so coming down to the bottom, let me put this one kind of next to it over here so you can kind of see what we're going towards. So I'm going to start by picking up 4 of my beads, 1, 2, 3, 4. And with looming, it doesn't really matter if you go from right to left or left to right, so we just need to do it. I'm going to start from right to left like this, and then I'm going to go through, right, pushing up and underneath with my finger. I need a little bit of tail there that I'm going to weave in later. Then I'm going to move my needle over, and I'm going to go run it back on the top like so. And I've locked, whoops, I didn't run it back through the top. Let me make sure it goes back through the top. Yes. And I've locked that row in. Now this is when I'm going to bring in my leather after this has been locked in. Okay, so I'm going to kind of turn the corner with my leather. I'm going to bring my leather around. I'm going to go under the leather, back through my beads, catching the beads on the side, right, like that, and doing the same thing on that side, right, and bringing this through. Now you have to fidget with it just a little, but that's okay. You know, the first few rows of anything always is a little bit, like our friend Mary says, looks a little bit like the dog's breakfast. So you just kind of have to go with it. And I'm going to send it through just because I really want this to be nice and tight. I'm going to send it through one more time. Whoops, but I didn't catch the leather. Oh, Kate. But look, I've got a hole there. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to loop. I'm just going to send the end of the leather through it rather than undo it. Oh, and you know what? I didn't even catch the seal on. What a mess. What a mess. So let me send it back through. I'm going to send the eye of the needle back through in hopes that I can just pull that thread out. Can I? Can I? Or will it all end in tears? It's mostly ending in tears, but it's not too bad. Oh my goodness. Let me just pick this out. It happens to all of us. So all you need to do is take a deep breath. Pull this out. It's okay. No crying in beads. I'm going to walk it back a little bit, pull it out from over here. There it is. Pull it out from here somewhere. Where did it go? Let that be a lesson. Learn from what I do and not what I say. And always pull that thread out without the needle. There we go. That's okay there. That's okay there. That's okay there. That end is going there. That end's going there. And let me just reinforce it. Okay. So, no biggie, you know. It's only looming. Let me come in and reinforce this a couple of times. We all have looming feet of clay. So let me do this. I'm going to come through and I'm going to go back a couple of times. Sorry if my hand is blocking everyone's view, but I will show you what I'm doing in just a second there. Nope. It's going around the bead. Oh, for heaven's sake. Let's just start talking about the weather. Anything to distract you about what's happening with my loom. Oh my goodness. And see how this is starting to loosen up. It's okay. Let's do a wire project instead. Oh gosh. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, everybody. This is just how it goes sometimes, right? That's the beauty of a live broadcast. You do it with the courage of your convictions, or don't do it at all. There we go. That's off. All right. So now see how I've got all of this loosey-goosey? If this happens to you, I'll show you how to fix it. Let me get rid of these beads over here.
Need a triangle?
I just need a little thing here. You get rid of these, and I'm going to show you how to tighten that. Because, you know, I probably do need a triangle. Why don't I just use my tools? Do you have one? Just use, oh, I think I've got it. No, I don't. Do I? No. Who can get the triangle faster? All right. Brandon's getting me her triangle. Look at that. Scoop and in the bowl. So let's fix this up. All right. I'm going to flip it over and see where things were loosening up. I'm going to tighten this up. It's because I didn't tie a tight enough knot. So I'm going to tie one more really good. And it's hard for me sometimes to really tie that knot. So I'm going to get my chain nose plier, I think, and it's going to help me pull that thread. See that there? There we go. Nice and tight. And I'm going to tie one more good knot. And then all of this will be just a mere dream. Okay. Ta-da! There it is. This looks good. It's like it never ever happened. It's still a little loose though. I don't really like the looks of that. I don't know if you guys have trouble sometimes gripping things, but I'm having a little trouble gripping this. Let's see if I can get this down. You know what? I'm not going to be using this back too much, so maybe I can tighten it up by tying it like so. I could just rewarp the whole board. Maybe that's what I should have done to begin with, right? There we go. That's okay. Just like that. You know what? Goodbye, threads.
It was cursed. You need to start.
It was. Sorry about that, you guys. I'm a little bit fumbly today. So, how many wraps do we do, everybody? We do 5. And what thread are we using? Micro Ceylon. That's right. 1, 2, 3 wraps. Let me see if I can get this here. The board's going all over in your view. 4 and 5. Okay. See that there? I'm going to pull this around. I'm going to pull everything tight. And I'm going to tie the knot in the back. Okay. Scooch everything closed. I know it's a little hard to see because everything is dark. Let me make sure that I have enough channels. 1, 2, 3. I need to wrap it around one more time. Make sure I've got my 4 channels up on the front. Let me count. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. And down. Sometimes, you guys, the looming gods are with you, and some days the looming gods laugh at you so hard. Hey, Brandwin, put your finger on this knot, would you, so I can get it really nice and tight. There we go. Yeah, you know what, you guys, if you're going to do it, you know, do it. And, you know, sometimes you just have to practice it again. You know, we always show you our best selves when we're on our, you know, thanks, Bran, I think that's perfect. Yes, it's not going anywhere. We always show you the, you know, the finished project, and it looks like we just pull it out of thin air, and oh, look how easy it is. Oh, look at that. But sometimes you just need a redo. Okay, look at that, and it's nice and tight. Beautiful. Okay, so
I want to push it up. Just
yeah, I'll push it up right there.
Perfect.
Let's get this leather. All right, I'm going to go a little bit at warp speed. See what I did there? And put this down. And let me get our beads and our fire line. And there it is. I'm going to needle the thread. There it goes. And now then, there we go. Look at that. Just like it never happened. So let me put those 4 on, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. What happened?
Amanda loomed over 50 rows wrong after adding some thread last night. She was watching TV and had to redo it all.
Oh, no. No, no. You know what I'm going to do? I'm also going to start from the left-hand side this time. Maybe that was my issue. And I'm going to really see how I can move these threads along the board so I can tighten everything up. Can you catch that, Brandwin? I tried to kind of push them in tight so you guys can see. Because I want to, the A-dots that we're putting on really establishes the space in between the rows. So there we go. I've got it. Now I push these little beads up just like musical notes on a music sheet, and I go through, okay? And so now that's locked in. Now I'm going to lock it in one more time. I'm going to go underneath here and go through the beads so they're nice and stable. And now I'm going to add in my leather. Okay, there we go. Nice and stable, nice and tight. Everything looks good. I bring my leather up to where the beads are. I go under, I want to make sure that I'm under this outside edge, catching the leather and going back through the beads. See that there? And as the leather comes around, or as the fire line comes around, it catches that leather and pulls it into place. I'm going to go underneath just like I'm laddering, okay? And I go under the leather and back through the beads. Okay. Now that long tail that's kind of sitting out there, I'm just going to let it sit for a second. As my needle goes back through, I don't want to split that fire line, so that was a little issue I was having there. Okay, so can you see how these are nice and tight here? Now, what I can do, because see this leather's kind of flippy-floppying around, it's kind of like, huh, I see what you're doing there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and see up here at the top of my board, is that kind of in frame?
The top is. The
Great.
bottom is completely off.
Perfect. That's okay, because I'll move it back. I can just come in with our little clampers, your friend and mine, and just clamp that leather. I don't want it to be, whoops, I don't want it to be too tight. So we can kind of hold it in place. See that? Just so I can establish a couple of rows, a few rows. And then once the leather is kind of nice and tight, it'll be easier for me to do. Okay, so see that there? There we go. So I've got a little bit of tension, all right? The tension is growing, okay? So just to reiterate, I loomed this row of 4 beads back and forth twice times to really cement it in place. And then I went under the side, over the leather, back through the beads, over the side, or under the side, over the leather, and back through. Okay, so now everything is set and I'm ready to go on my merry way. So here, if we count this before the buttonhole, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more rows. So let's just get our beads. I had my little mix in the tray here, and now they're all kind of mixed, so I want to make sure that I'm just picking up those eggplant ones and not the copper. So I'm going to pick up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And see how now my thread naturally wants to go over the leather? So I go over the leather. See how that locks it in? So it is kind of like a wrap bracelet plus looming equals good times. See how my thread naturally wants to go under the leather there? So I'm going to just let it go under, up and through the beads. And anytime that you're looming, you just want the tip of your needle, or the top of the needle, to scrape the top of the bead hole. Okay, so there it is. Bam. So that's 2 rows. Ta-da! Let's put on a 3rd row. We go underneath. See how this naturally just wants to kind of slide around while you're doing this. And the leather isn't in the clamps so tightly that it, you know, that it's pulling things out of whack. You can also see how I kind of pulled things up and up like this to kind of snug everything as it goes around. And I'm going to go through here, here, and here. And let's put on, let's see if I'm following this, I've got 1 more row. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 more. Go round. We're almost to the buttonhole, you guys, almost to the buttonhole. Let's see, and these 8/0, you know, it's a nice size for this. You know, you could scale up or scale down, but you'll see as we start mixing up our beads with different bead sizes, pardon me, you kind of have to play around with what beads you're putting on the weft. So, and you could also make this wider if you wanted. This is just 4 beads wide, but this would be cool if you just did a single wrap and did a wider cuff. That would be cool, right? I think it would be cool. All right, so there's the 4. Now we're starting our first kind of different bead, and that's this hishi. So let me count and see how many hishi we have in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like what is happening here is there's 1 hishi here in the first channel, 2 in the second, 2 in the third, and 1 in the fourth. Okay, so I'm going to pick up 6 of these guys. 1. You know what would look good in here? You know what I'd say. Shadows. That's right. I heard it. I heard you say that out there. Little shadows or regular shadows would look amazing. So I come through, and now this is where I kind of have to distribute the wealth here. So I'm going to put 1 in the first one, 2 in the second one. Maybe I'll do it from this side because then I'll put my needle through as it goes through. So there's 1. I'll put my needle through that one, lock it in. And then I'll lock in 2. Let me kind of grab them with my needle. 1. Come on now. 1. Who's the boss of this? He, she, me. 1. Come on. I said 1 and 2. Oh, for crying out loud. Let me get it a little bit tighter. It's going to look great once they're in there. Now I know why there aren't that many hishi in this design. 1 and 2 and 1, and I need to do 2 in that channel. You just tell that bead to pop over into that lane, and then this is the last lane. Sorry, again, my fingers are in the way, but I'll get my hand out of there. There we go. They're distributed, and now I just fly my needle through. Okay. And the reason that there are 6 on here but only 4 channels, I think if we would have put 2 in each of these, it would have kind of bulged out a little bit. Okay? So 6 is the right number. You just have to distribute them evenly. Okay? And so now we ended up with 4 more right before the buttonhole. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And let's go underneath. Now it's just going over and under that leather is just kind of an automatic gesture. And can you see here that interior loomed warp on that on this loomed piece? The warp here is kind of sitting inside next to the leather, so it's running kind of next to. So it just kind of blends in. So on your outer row, you have the Ceylon and the leather sitting together, if that makes sense. So I go through, I catch it, I switch fingers, and put it through. All right, guys, it's buttonhole time. Okay. So looking at this project, you can see, and it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to point it out. See here in the 4th bead, so this is, or the 2nd bead, I guess, if I'm counting here, this is 1. This is 2, so you can see how that thread is going over to this side. Then this is the 3rd warp is going over to this side to right over here. So what we're doing basically is we're splitting this down, and we're putting the warps kind of down next to, or the warps, yeah, down next to the beads. So there's actually 2 of them running here. So you'll see what I mean when I get there. So I'm going to put on 1 bead, and we're going to do this, I think we're going to do this one side at a time. So I put my bead on. I'm going to catch this here. Okay? And it looks like for this buttonhole, it's pretty easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like there's 5 beads. So I'm just going to go in here. That one's going to go there, and that one's going to go there. Okay. So I'm just going to go back and forth and loom these 5 beads. Okay, so there's 1. I'll put on another, 2, And I'm ignoring everything else. So don't sweat it, okay? You're going to see how super easy this is coming back up. We're going to catch everything else. So there's 2 and back and 3, and depending on the size of the button that you use, that will make the difference, you know, how many beads or how many singles you need to loom down for your opening. Okay, so that's my 3rd one. Let me put on my 4th one here. And back through. And then we go to number 5. Okay. The last one. Alrighty. Now, you guys, I bet some of you already know what I'm going to do. I bet you do. At least I hope I know what I'm going to do. Let's see what happens. Come on, get down in there. There we go. Alrighty. And now what am I going to do, everybody? Put on 4 beads and go to the other side. That's right. Brandon was right. Brandon's been watching so many Facebook Live videos. So see how now my 4 are going in? So they go across. Pretty clever if I do say. Now I'm going to I'm going to go back. I'm just going to, this wants to kind of move around. So I want to reinforce it. I'm going to go through that one. So things stop moving. I'll go around the edge and send it through. Okay. Now I'm going to loom up towards me. And I'm going to catch this extra thread as I loom to make that loop. So I could, and if I wanted to make it easier for me, I could just turn this whole thing. Look at that. So now it's a little bit easier for me to kind of manipulate. So I'm going to put on my single, and I'm not going to go under this strand. I'm going to go over the second strand. See how when I pull it, pulls it aside and creates that extra warp thread. It pulls it aside and is making the opening for my bead hole, right? So as I'm doing this, I get tighter and tighter with my tension. So it'll just all pull in, probably about the 3rd one that I put on, it'll all pull in pretty tightly. Okay, and if this is giving you a little bit of funniness, just get your thread and kind of pull it in tight. And now I'll pull this one in to make sure the tension is nice. Okay, there we go. And you know what? If you didn't know that this bead was making a little angle there, you wouldn't know, right? So we're just going to ignore it and send this thread through, the needle through our second one. We want to make sure, I think the tendency, what happens is that this bottom row is leaning a little bit, so we just want to make sure that everything is nice and even so that my space here and my space here is even. So there's my next one. Let's put on the next one here. And we're going to go through that one there, push that bead into place, and come back. You know, you guys can do, if you know the basic moves, and I'll be really honest, I know that this isn't a surprise for you guys since I was fumbling, but I hadn't touched this project before this morning. So, you know, as long as you have the skill set, and as long as you can kind of visualize and, you know, try and figure things out, you've got this, right? So there's my that one, and I want to make sure that everything is even. So see that there? These are lining up, these two, these two, these two, and then I've got one more to line up there.
Jennifer's curious to know how you know that the size of the button fits.
Well, I know the size of the button fits because Emily chose that button, so I'm using that one. But if I did have to size my button, I'll show you how I do that. That's a great question. So I'm going to go through there. I'm going to pull that tight. I'm going to pull this all up so it's nice and tight here. And then see what I'm going to do, you guys? I'm going to pop through this top row one more time. So it looks pretty seamless. It's not too bad, right? I'm going to go under the leather. And I could just loom back through these beads if I wanted, pretty easily, to reinforce it. It's not a bad idea because, you know, a button is always kind of an issue. You know, it's always kind of a weak spot. But instead of going underneath, I can just pop down to that one. And I don't even have to wrap it. See how I can just kind of poke my way through these beads and walk my needle right back down where I want it to be. Okay, but if you felt like you wanted to reinforce this buttonhole, you could do your whole thing again, go back through, tighten it up all the way if you wanted. And you can see with Emily, you can see on this one how you can see that little jog of thread going through there and going through there. Okay, so this is nice and tight. So the question was how do you test your button? So what I do before I finish the sizing my buttonhole, when I was doing this first line, I would come in and I'd lay my button next to what's going on here, and down around the widest part, I'd figure out how many beads needed to be. Then I'd put on that many beads, and then I'd go across and then up the other side. So it just depends on how long that button is. Okay. So Donna asked, could I put the unused warp one on each side? I could, but this gives me that side, this gives me that side, and I have one warp running down the center. So if this were a 6 strand, if I had 6 strands of thread to deal with, I could take one set to that side and one set to that side. But since this is 4 channels, I have 5 threads, so I only put it to one side. So it's one side or the other. Okay? So now I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to move my board back so I'm kind of in position. And now I'm just going to keep going with the warps. Let's take a look at what's coming up. What's coming on up next on this very special edition of 3D bracelet. So I've got 2 more rows, and then I'm going to add the the copper beads, right? So this is going to go through, and again my thread is already in position. I brought it under, and now it goes over the side. I do want to show you how to add thread as well, because I know that when I say, oh, we're going to add thread, everyone starts to get a little sweaty and nervous, right? So just relax. Adding thread is NBD. No big deal, right? So
doing those projects with all the extra thread.
Right? Yeah, just, you know what? Just relax, everybody, you know? It's okay. We're going to come back through. Now I'm ready for my copper beads, right? So I've got copper beads in this little mashup. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And since these copper beads are also 8/aughts, they just fit right in there. Again, no big deal, right? Put that in. And then I just go back through. Look at this. This is kind of coming along, right? It's starting to look like a bracelet. That's awesome. Okay. Then that goes through. And then what happens? Let me look at this. Then I've got a single strand of 8/0, and you guys, it's almost time for dragon scales. I'm so excited. Hey, dragon scales, how you doing? All right, get this through, push it up, and back through the beads. All right, so let me take a count. 2, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8. There are 8 dragon scales, and can you see? Can you see how? And they kind of displace each other a little bit, so they fan out a little bit with this dragon scale. So we're going to put 2 dragon scales in each channel. Now the dragon scale that I am using are the Crystal Copper Rainbow. That's Crystal Orange Rainbow. Crystal Copper Rainbow, is it this one? That's California Gold Rush. Is it this one? It is. Crystal Copper Rainbow. You know what, you guys, you could use anything. You know, you do you. Whatever. If you want something that looks a little more, I don't know, a little more monochromatic maybe. Look at how beautiful that, whatever this one is. French Rose. Look at how pretty French Rose. I probably would have chosen French Rose had we had these in time, maybe. I love them. You could also use, look at, for super monochrome, look at this Crystal Magenta. Come on now. I'm running out of little cups, but I'll show you in this white. Look at Crystal Magenta. Oh, come on now. Shut the front door. That's just beautiful. Isn't it pretty? So, but since we used Crystal Copper Rainbow in the original, oops, it just fell off me.
I thought it was the yeah, it was the
what was it, Barandoin? Something, oh, it's the tape measure. I'm like, what the heck? Is Alfie playing with me? No, it's just the tape measure. All right, there we go. Okay, so here is the Crystal Copper Rainbow, and so I need to put, if I have 4 channels, I need to put 8 of these. Now, these are directional. They have a front, which is this pretty business here, and they have a back, which is the copper part. I am not worrying about direction. I'm just worrying about the right number of beads. So that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, there it is, 7, and 8. Now, when we were creating the Bella Silver piece, these full Labrador, it's kind of hard for you to see on camera, but the full Labrador has been plated on both sides. So the bead actually, honestly, is slightly thicker, okay? And the hole size was slightly smaller. And we noticed that just going back and forth when Emily was doing this. So, you'll notice a difference, not so much that it's going to be a thing, okay? So just go with it. So let me slide those bad boys over. I'm going to slide this through, nestling 2 dragon scales. These want to nestle a lot nicer than that Hishi. Nestling 2 dragon scales in each channel. Okay, this is where my knotting tweezer would go nicely. But see, that's up. I come through. They're loomed in. One way, I'm going to put my finger on them again from underneath and loom through the other way. Might be a little bit harder to grab that hole because the hole is a lot smaller. And you know who can't see? Who needs more light? Me. Come on now, there it goes. So there's one. You really want to make sure that you catch these, because if you don't catch them, they're not going to sit correctly in your looming. But you can kind of feel around. I'm just feeling around with the tip of my needle. Again, no big deal. Just going through there. There's that one. There's that one. And if they're lined up, you know, the holes, you can kind of, they're close. Give me that little last one. And if I were working at home with my really good task light, instead of here on our main table in our offices in front of all of you, I'd have a little bit of a better time of it. But see that there? That's going through just fine. All right. So now I'll pull it through. And no need to reinforce this. I'm just going to keep going. It looks like on the opposite side of this dragon scale, I need another row of these A-dots. And those A-dots, I think, kind of act as like a little lock to that. And that just goes right through there. Lynn, I love how you are explaining my colloquialisms to our Danish friend Gita. Indeed, shut the front door means, will you look at that? Come on now. There we go. Perfect. That goes through. And so now, I don't know, you could start forming your own pattern, but it looks like Emily did a row of copper, a row of the eggplant, and then we started going rogue some more with our 4mm fire polish. So let's get there, shall we? So a row, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the copper. You know, I love these copper seed beads. Their size, they call them an A-dot, right? It's an A-dot seed bead. It's a little fatter than your, whoops, those just didn't want to stay on the needle. They're a little fatter than a regular A-dot, so they sit just slightly differently, but that's okay. It gives a little bit of interest to the bracelet. I use these metal seed beads all the time. I love them so. But you know me, I love metal. Because you want to know why? Because I'm a metalsmith. At least that's what they say. At least I play one on TV, literally. I want to get this going here. Thank you, Brandon, for that courtesy laugh. Thank goodness. Someone thinks I'm funny. And come on now. There it goes. And again, you know, there was a conversation over on the bead table bead group here on Facebook, and I can actually move these now. I think we can unpin these and they're fine. We don't have to even keep having those. They're getting in your way. But people were talking about what lights really work for people and stuff, and people were talking about different task lights and stuff like that. You know, lighting, I think, is half the battle. If you have a really good work surface and a really good light, your struggle will be less. That is for darn sure. So really make sure when you're doing this, because this can be a little tedious, that you're really set up for success with the right lighting and the right work surface. Okay? So you can see now I'm ready to add that little gem right there. So it's a hishi, and it looks like it's just the hishi and then the 4mm next to it. And since the hishi is skinny, these warps open up a little bit and everything is accommodated size-wise. So I've got the hishi there. I've got, this is the crystal copper, let me see what this 4mm is. It's the 4mm polychrome jasper rose, or polychrome copper rose, not jasper rose, which I love. I think we also have these in Checkmate's tiles, don't we? If we don't, we should. I love this coating. I know we also have it in a 6mm too, but the coating is kind of magical. So see how I'm shoving these up there? And see how the lane has widened and thinned just by virtue of the beads, okay? And it's hishi. It's a African bead, and it's spelled H-E-I-S-H. Hishi bead. Okay, and then it goes back through, and it's the original tribal Hishi comes from West Africa, and we carry some of those on strands. The West African metal beads are some of my very most favorites. Okay. And then I'm just going to go back, and it looks like I just repeat this pattern. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And, you know, we have a project map up on the website. So you'll be able to see kind of the layout of how we did this one. But, you know, again, this is a time where you can really do you know, and decide how you like these, because all these beads play together pretty well. Coming back through, I need to make those lanes kind of regular, okay? So I'm going to come through, and I'm going to just kind of pull that through. I'm going to put that second one through. I'm going to put this guy through, and this guy, okay? So I know you're getting antsy. You're like, Kate, how the heck are you going to finish this off? Well, I'm going to address that for you guys right now as soon as I get this bead back in its lane. Come on now. Who's the boss of this tiny size 8 seed bead that wants to go rogue? Me. There we go. There it is. I'm going to lay in just a couple more quick rows just to bring everything back into shape, so bear with me as I do that. But now, to close this off, we start playing around with some more traditional loom techniques. And I also told you that I would show you how to add thread. So actually, let me add some thread, because this is getting short anyway. And then we'll look at closing. We'll end with closing. Okay? That goes through, and then I'm going to do, so see how I kind of pull that back in, not too tight, but I want it to kind of normalize again, okay, equalize out. Let me go this one more time, 2, 3, bring it underneath. And adding thread to a loomed project, or to any project really, I know that there's been some questions about how to add when you're doing infinity stitch and stuff like that, and we have some great videos from different Facebook Lives on how we do that. But adding with the looming is pretty easy. Let me clear my decks a little bit here. There we go. And to add a thread, I'm just going to put this thread aside, okay, on the needle. And I'm putting it out of the way, okay? So now I'm going to add some thread. I'm going to cut another length of fire line. I don't know, maybe 2 box lengths. So that's 28 inches. No, 14 and 14. Yeah, 28 inches. Maybe a little more, maybe about 30 inches. I'm going to wax it, as I always do, right? Okay, like this, and like that. Whoops. Come on, like this. We have a fun, once we get back from our Facebook vacation, we have a great project with the O beads where we use them in a traditional seed bead stitch, so it's going to be really fun to do that. And Ellen, you're asking if you wanted to skip the buttonhole, could you close off the ends like you might a traditional ladder bracelet? By all means, you could totally do that. If you kind of wanted to kind of have some ends down here with leather and ends down here, and you could macrame it or do all kinds of stuff with that. Because the warp threads, I'm going to show you what we do with those warp threads. It's easier than you think it is. So I'm just going to string that through. Now I'm going to come back a little further down. Let's say I'm going to come back maybe here, and I'm going to start in the center of a row. And I'm just going to weave this through. So see, I've started there. I'm going to turn a corner. I'm going to go here. I'm not even going around the leather. I'm just working in the loomed part of the beads right now. Can you see that? I've come there. Okay. Now I'm going to go back through maybe just these. Maybe I'll go back through all three because I want it to be all lined up. Then I'm going to come back through this row, this bead, that bead, that bead. I could go under the leather if I wanted, but I don't want my wraps on the outside to be, you know, too many. So I'm just going to go in the interior here. And let's see, I want my thread to come out where this thread begins. So I'm going to go here, stop in the middle of the row, and pop up to this row and have this thread come out, right? So this is what we call that 2 needle bind off, because we have this first original needle up there as our placeholder. We've added this thread, so this second needle goes over here. I pick up this needle, I come around, and I'm just gonna weave this back down, which is also a good reason to be using this fire line. We're using the, what size fire line is this? It's the 4-pound fire line, so it's fairly thin, right? So you could just go back and forth a few times. I'll go back down these beads, back down here to where I started, and now I'll just come in and I'll pull it under tension, clip that one away, pull this one under tension, clip that away, and now I have a nice long thread ready to go. Okay, pretty easy to do, right? So let me go ahead and I'm going to put this button on, okay, so you guys can see that. So I've loomed the whole thing, loomed. Let me put one more row on here just so I've got a little more space. Loom. And there were some rumblings there about how you could sew the button on. You sure could. If you had a button with a shank, hey Myra, can you grab me any button that has a shank on it, like maybe the Bali button? Yeah, please. And copper, I guess. While Myra's grabbing that for me, I'll show you. I'll just keep madly looming. Thank you, Myra. You're the best. If I had a button with a shank, and we've done this before in our peyote, the ombre peyote, the way that we added the button on there. I'll show you just real quick. Like, I would come back through, I'd come back through this row. I'd put my button, see here's the shank button. I'd choose a place, any place. I'd put on 2 beads, go back through the shank, put on 1 bead, go back through, and then I'd go back through, loom back and forth, 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 till I clear that button. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. But we're gonna put a button here on the end instead. Now, like, I think it was Ellen who was asking if we could close it off at the end like a regular wrap bracelet. Yeah, by all means. You could loom this back and forth or weave this back and forth, weave these ends back through like I'm going to do now, and then you'd have just these ends and you could finish it off like a normal wrap. You could silk wrap it, you could macrame, you could do a whole bunch of things to close it off that way. Okay, but with this, you can see I've got my button, and since I'm going on the top side, it doesn't really matter because it kind of, we want to make sure though that this button kind of moves around, but we want to make sure that we're putting it face up and not face down because this button has a little bit of a curve to it. This leaf button, the new leaf button, has pretty big holes on it, so I can get this leather through going one way and through going the other. I think. I said through going the other. I could angle cut it if I needed to, but there we go. Going through. Then we'll go back down through this way. Okay. So now I'm going to tighten everything up. Tighten, tighten. And tighten. And I've got this here. Now, I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see this a little bit. What I'm going to do to close this off, I want to make sure that that's not connected or not twisted. I'm going to weave off both of these ends, and I'm going to do it really kind of quick-like, right? So I'm just going to kind of go back through. So I've dealt with my weft threads. I don't want to catch that. I want to make sure. And let's pretend that I've really gone back through and woven this off nice and deep into the bracelet. But for this, I'm just going to go back these 3 rows. I'm not even turning a corner. And I'll clip it. Remember way, way back at the beginning, I have this tail. I'm going to weave these back through, just like I did before. And I don't know, weave them back through a couple or the whole row. Doesn't make any difference. Maybe I'll do this first one back through the whole row just to make it nice and even. But you're picking up what I'm putting down on this, right? Like this. And then I'll just go back through to maybe the center, and I'll weave it up here. And I'll really make sure that I've got it nice and tight. For now, I'm just going to go back through these, zigzag them through, and then cut this away. Okay? Clear as mud, right? So now, check out what happens here. I'm going to tighten this down with the courage of my convictions. I don't know if any of you do any knitting, right? There's this move in knitting called cutting a steek. And when you cut a steek, you make this special stitch and you cut your knitting apart so you can add a zipper or buttons or something fun like that. This is the same thing. You've got to have the courage of your convictions here. It's kind of like cutting a steek because we're going to cut all these off. I'm going to flip this over. Whoops. Throw my beads around. I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut those threads. Right? Take away my box, take away the pad, and here I have my piece with all these warp threads and the end of my leather. Right? Now all we need to do, you guys, is tackle these one by one. Is this in frame, Brand? Am I centered? Yeah. All of this? Now, this is micro Ceylon. Oh, if there's a knot here, this should be enough. I don't need to weave them back too far, but this micro Ceylon, and I don't know if we put them on the list. I'll be honest, I didn't consult it because I'm flying by the seat of my pants today. Hey Myra, can you do one more thing for me, please? I need the collapsible eye needles, the Beadalon ones, please. I think that's what I want to use. Okay. Thank you ever so. These size 10 needles are a little small for that micro Ceylon, and if we haven't added it to the list, we'll add it now. But see how this I'm using, I threw it away so quickly. It's the Beadalon collapsible eye needle. Okay, maybe we use the flexible eye. I don't even know what's on this list, but I like this one because it's a little stiffer. Now, watch what I'm going to do here, you guys. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to go through that bead with my collapsible eye, trying not to split any threads, holding this leather next door, tightening it up, going around, and now I'll find a little space up between the beads that I need to tighten. And now go back through this one. Okay. As I go around, whoops, I was going to say as I go around, see how I'm catching that leather? See how I didn't catch the leather on that one? So I'm going to go down to this one. See how I'm catching the leather? There we go. And weaving it back through. See that right there? Nice and tight. I'm going to go through, I don't know how far Emily went with this one. She didn't go super far, and it looks like what she also did, and what you could do, it might make it a little bit easier, is adding a little bit of zap to that end to kind of glue those two leathers together. But I'm just going to keep going through. I'm going to go at least maybe 4 rows. Okay. And now I can go back up. Oh, sure. What do you need?
I just need to plug this in.
Oh.
We're apparently critically low.
Oh,
Sorry
we're critically
if I get
low.
Anybody's.
We just need to plug in the camera. No problem.
If I can figure out how to do this. Sorry about the shaking, people.
It's okay.
Don't want to have the broadcast be interrupted.
Right
at
at this critical moment. So see how I'm weaving it back and forth here, back and forth, up the side. And I might come back in with my hypo cement, which I will after I do this. And I'm going to glue all that down. Okay, like this. And like this. Okay. So now you can see how I've woven that one thread in. Okay. You can, hi, yeah, we can grab it there. So see how I can take each of these back and forth, back and forth. I can weave that one down into that row. I can weave that one down into that row and that one down. I can even bring that one down into this row again. And then this final one I'll do like I did on the other side and wind that one through so it catches this cord on the side, right? Now this side is easy compared to everything else, right? This side, all I need to do though is I want to capture, see how the warps come behind my leather? See that? They're not catching the leather. What I want to do on this side is I want to bring them over the top of the leather so it's catching it. So see, this one goes here. I go over the top of the leather and then weave it through. So see how I see that the thread across the top. And that little trick also helps me, I'll do it for the second one, also helps this piece of leather and the first bead kind of marry nicely and sit next to each other nicely. Okay, so this is here, this goes back through, it goes over the leather, and I'll come through this bead. Maybe I can even pop through the second bead, doesn't really matter. And make sure, there's a lot of thread in here, so we just want to make sure that I'm poking this through really carefully and not catching, whoops, well, my thread came out. Isn't that a pain? Let's try it one more time. These little beadle-on needles, if you come in and you pull it into that little loop, it helps your thread, for just this purpose, not fall off your needle. So it's really helpful. There we go. So see how that now also comes over the top. And I'll weave that through. And you want to make sure that you're kind of pulling these warp threads so that our tension is nice and even so we don't get a hole in here as you're weaving it through. But does that make sense? We'll do that with the next one. We'll just weave it in. I'll capture it one more time. But you're getting the process, I think. Okay? This goes in, and then this just goes through that bead. And we weave it down through. This way and this way. We'll just weave it back and forth so it's in there. And I would go pretty far. You know, I would go at least to the hishi, maybe even down to the buttonhole. But all of these ends in here have been woven closed. Okay, does that make sense? And then it's too small almost. It's like a ring. It's like I made a ring. You can see this just closes up just like so. There's my teeny little ring bracelet that I did. Okay, so does that make sense? And then we'll just cut away all of this extra thread. And that's it. Let me add a little bit of glue to this side. Okay, you've seen me glue before, but let me glue it one more time as I'm looking around for our glue. Oh, it's right there at the end of the table. Brandon, would you mind handing it to me? I'll go ahead and I'll add a little bit. I've got my baggie down. I'll put a little bit of hypo cement. Hypo cement kind of stays where you put it. Let me squeeze a little bit up so it's coming out of the thing. There we go. It stays where you put it, so I want to add a little bit here. We want to be careful not to glue on top of the beads at all, right? Because we've had the experience in the past where glue can discolor those beads, so we just want to really keep it right on the leather and on those threads. I might glue a little bit and then weave maybe a little bit more back through, and then I would wait a full 24 hours to let this glue dry, and then I would clip my threads, my leather right there. Okay, so we would just clip all of these guys. Obviously we've woven them back through, but we clip, 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 weave all of these back through, clip, 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 and then we're good to go. So it's pretty easy and straightforward to put those guys on. I know it looks complicated, but it's actually not very difficult at all. No knots need to be tied anywhere because we've woven all of these warp threads back through in the body of the piece. This leather has been you know, glued along the side and whip stitched on as I weave you know, as I weave it back with one of the warp threads. So again, no knot really needed there either. I mean, you could tie a little knot here if you wanted, but I think it might just look a little ungangly and maybe get in the way. Okay, so it's pretty simple, pretty easy to do with this. Yeah, it's just a tiny little piece, so I'll finish this off. Okay, well, I think that's brought us right up to luncheon, Brandon. So I'm going to unplug this, hand the camera back to you, and we will go ahead and pull that off. I'll hold this, and we will bring this broadcast to a close. I think we did it. We managed it. I also managed to make a really big mess. So just so you guys know, just to reiterate some of the stuff that we talked about at the beginning that you guys may have missed, we are taking a little August summer break from Facebook Live, but never fear, we are going to show, it's going to be the best of the best, some of our favorites from Facebook Live's past. So we'll still post a video that you all can watch on Wednesday, and we'll have a fun special on Wednesday and stuff like that. That'll take us through Wednesdays and Free Tip Fridays. It'll take us through just past Labor Day, and we'll be back at the very beginning of, just after Labor Day, the Wednesday after Labor Day, to jump in with some more broadcasts. We are doing a Facebook Free Tip Friday on Friday. It'll be the last one before our break. And that Free Tip Friday is going to focus on our August mix that just came out. It's called Summer Sunset. It's the August 2018 mix that Cara did, and Cara's going to come on with me. I think I've convinced her. We'll know on Friday if she's here with me. She made a couple of really cool projects using this mix that I'm going to share with you. It'll be real fun. We'll talk about a little bit how she pulled the beads and how she came to this color story and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So, but today, we have a couple of things. I have a couple of things to flash you. We are doing a raffle for the Summer Sunset. So if you are placing an order of any size in the next hour, it's a little after 12. It's about 8 minutes after 12 Pacific time today on the 1st of August. And if you put Summer Sunset in your order notes, you'll be entered into the raffle, the drawing, for one of 3 of the Summer Sunset mixes. Okay, so that's happening. If you're watching this a little later on replay, I'm sorry that that offer isn't available, but make sure and go to our website, beadshop.com, and sign up for our newsletter. We have so many offers and specials and gifts and stuff that go on there as well. So that'll put you in the running for other things later. We also have our, today, if you've opened your newsletter, we've got a check glass sale. All check glass today is 25% off. And you know what that includes? It includes dragon scales, you guys. I know we're going to get wiped out today. I know we are, because they're so cool. If you, for any of the check beads, super duos, anything like that, that's a check bead, fire polish, all of it, if you add check 25 in your discount code box, we'll knock 25% off. And that sale ends tonight, the 1st of August at midnight Pacific time. So we've got those 2 things right there. We've got next time, and don't worry, Bead Shop, we're not closing for the month of August. We're just doing some Facebook rebooting and fun stuff like that. So don't worry, we're not going anywhere. It's just that Facebook Live. Come on, let's sit. Alfie, everybody wants to see you. He's just not paying attention today, is he? We thought that you guys might want to see our little buddy. So here, Alfred, you hold this check glass. Can you hold it in your mouth? Here, hold it in your mouth. You bite, he bites everything. I can't believe he's not biting this sign. Hold it in your mouth. No, he says. No, Mama. Alrighty. Well, that does it for us, for me, for Alfie, for Brandon, for Emily, for Janice, for the whole crew here for August. We will see you live on Friday for Free Tip Friday, and then we will be back after Labor Day. But we, of course, are not going anywhere, so you can still place your orders all August long at beadshop.com. We're not going anywhere. I know, look at how big he's grown. He's looking good. So we're all going to have some lunch, including this monster. Oh, look at that precious paw right on my face. All right, you guys, have a great day, and I'll see you Friday for Free Tip Friday. Okay, this is enough of this paw. Take this paw. We're done. We're done here. We're so done here.
All right.